Good morning, guys, and welcome back to our channel, especially those who are preparing for Reet examination 2021. So, guys, today's topic of discussion is all about Vedic period. The Vedic period, or it is also known as called Vedic age, the duration of that is 1500 to 500 BCE, is the period of late Bronze Age. Okay, it is the period of Bronze Age and an early Iron Age of the history of India when the Vedas were composed in the northern Indian subcontinent. So where the Vedas were composed in your northern Indian subcontinent between the end of urban Indus Valley. Okay, and what's the location it's saying? It's saying that between the end of the urban Indus Valley civilization and the second urbanization which begins in the central Indo-Gangetic plain 600 BCE. Okay, the Vedas are liturgical. Okay, liturgical in the sense means they are ritual text. Okay, holy text, which formed the basis of the influential Brahminical ideology. Okay, and the what is their basis? Basis is their Brahminical ideology, which developed in the Kuru kingdom. Okay, they may ask you the question in which kingdom the Vedas were developed. So there is Kuru kingdom, a tribal union of several Indo-Aryan tribes. The Vedas contains details of the life during this period that have been interpreted to be historical and constitute the primary source of understanding the period. Now, these documents, alongside the corresponding archaeological record, allow for the evaluation of the Indo-Aryan and Vedic culture to be traced and inferred. Okay, further it says the Vedas were composed and orally transmitted with the precision by a speaker of an old Indo-Aryan language who had migrated into the northwestern region of the Indian subcontinent early in this period. The Vedic society was patriarchal. Now, what it says, the Vedic society was a patriarchal. Okay, it means the man holds the superior power. Okay, it is a male dominating society kind of, and it was also it says it's patrilineal. Patrilineal is relating to or the based on the relationship of father or deceased. Okay, that both have quite same meaning. So early Indo-Aryans were a late Bronze society, okay, centered in the Punjab, organized into tribes, okay, rather than kingdoms. So it was not in kingdoms, but it was into tribes and primarily sustained by a pastoral way of life. Further, it says that around 1200 to 1000 BC, the Aryan culture spread. Okay, this is the duration when it was spread eastward to the fertile western. And what direction it is spread? Eastward to western Ganges plain. Iron tools were adopted. Okay, which kind of tools? Iron tools, remember, were adopted, which allowed for the clearing of the forest and the adaptation of the more settled agriculture way of life. The second half of the Vedic period was characterized by the emergence of towns, okay, kingdoms, and a complex social differentiations distinctive to India. Okay, and the Kuru kingdom, codification of orthodox sacrificial rituals. Now, during this time, the central Ganges plain was dominated by a related but non-Vedic Indo-Aryan culture, okay, of the greater Magda. So this particular this Ganges plain area was dominated by Magda. The end of the Vedic period witnessed the rise of the true cities and the large cities called Mahajanpatas. Okay, and when the Vedic period was ended, so the new culture or the new cities which come up over there, that was here called Mahajanpatas. Okay, as as well as Saramana movements. Okay, and this Saramana movement you need to remember that includes your Jainism and Buddhism, which challenge the Vedic orthodoxy. All right. So guys, they may ask these terms are important in Mahajanpadas. Last time it was asked in 2017 examination. Okay, and Saramana, now you understood. This is a movement which including your Jainism and Buddhism, and they were challenging the Vedic orthodoxy on this. The Vedic period saw the emergence of a hierarchy of social classes. Okay, that would remain influential. Vedic religion developed into the Brahminical orthodoxy, and around the beginning of the Common Era, the Vedic tradition formed one of the main constituents of Hindu synthesis. If we try to look here into this map here, what it is saying, see, actually, this is what the early Vedic period area was. Okay, this is how it was dominating in India gradually, and this was the period of your 1500 to your 1100 BCE. Okay, guys. So this was the time when it was spread in India. Further, it's a geographical range is Indian subcontinent range. Period is your Bronze Age India. Dates are given in 1500 to 1100 BCE. It was preceded by Indus Valley civilization. Okay, and it was followed by later Vedic period, Kuru kingdom and Panchala and Vidya. Okay, let's have further look at the origin, or the we can say the history of Vedic period and how it started, how it originated. So the early Vedic age, okay, is historically dated to the second half of the second millennium. Okay, second half of the second millennium BCE. Historically, after the collapse of Indus Valley civilization, which occurred around 1900 BCE, groups of Indo-Aryans peoples migrated into the northwestern India and started to inhabit the northern Indus Valley. The Indo-Aryans represented a subgroup that diverged from other Indo-Aryan Iranian tribes at the Andronova horizon before the middle of the second millennium BCE. Let's see what it says further. It says the Indian writers and archaeologists have opposed the notion of the migration of Indo-Aryans into India and argued for an indigenous origin of the Indo-Aryans. Okay, this is what they have argued and what they have supported this. All right. In this view, the Indian civilization must now, in which view we are talking about, in this particular view, okay, it says the Indian civilization must be viewed as an unbroken tradition that goes back to the earliest period of Sindhu Saraswati or the Indus tradition in 700 to 7000 to 8000 BCE. Okay, though popular in India and reflecting Indian views on Indian history and religion, the idea of a purely indigenous origin of the Indo-Aryan is outside the academic mainstream. Now let's see, guys, what it is further. The important thing is here that you need to see here, this part especially. The knowledge about the Aryan comes mostly from the Rig Veda Samhita. That is the oldest layer of Vedas. So they may ask you the question that which is the oldest layer of Vedas. So you should know the name, that is called Rig Veda Samhita. Okay, which was composed in year 1200 to 1000 BCE. They brought with them that their distinctive religious traditions and practices. The Vedic belief and the practices of the pre-classical era were closely related to the hypothesis, okay, that is Proto-Indo-European religion, okay, and the Indo-Iranian religion. Funeral sacrifices from the Synthestas culture show close parallel to the sacrificial funeral rites of the Rig Vedas. Okay, and what are these funeral sacrifices? Funeral sacrifices are the rituals or the ceremony which we perform at the time of death of someone. Now, while according to it further says, according to your Anthony, the old antique religion probably emerged among Indo-European immigrants in the contact zone. Okay, and what was that contact zone? It was developed between the contact zone of your, that is known as called Jeravashan River. Okay, which is presently located in your Uzbekistan and Iran. So it was somewhere between Uzbekistan and Iran. It was developed, and it was a syncretic. Syncretic means the combination of the different forms of the belief or the practices. So it was a mixture of the old Central, okay, Asian and the new Indo-European elements, which borrowed distinctive religious beliefs and practices. Further, it is talking about the early Vedic period. You see, need to see the time period of this early Vedic period, guys. That is 1500 to 1000 BCE is known as called your early Vedic period. So the Rig Veda contains the account of the conflict between the Aryas and the Dasas or Dasyus. Okay, it describes Dasas and Dasyus as the people who do not perform sacrifices. Okay, so who are Dasyus? Those who do not perform. Okay, they are also known as called Akratu, or obey the commandments of the gods of Avrata. Their speech is described as mirdra, which could variously mean soft and uncouth. Uncouth means uncivilized. Okay, hostile, scornful, and or abusive. Further, it says, however, some modern scholars such as Asko Parpola connects the Dasas and Dasyus to the Iranian tribes. Okay, and Daha and Dahu, and believe that Dasas and Dasyus were early Indian Aryan immigrants. Okay, this is what some of the historians they believe, like Asko Parpola, okay, who arrived in the into the subcontinent before the Vedic Aryans. Now further it said accounts of the military conflicts between the various tribes of Vedic Aryans are also described in the Rig Veda. Okay, most notably of such conflict was the Battle of Ten Kings, okay, which took place on the bank of the river Parasuni, modern days Ravi. Okay, so you need to remember they may ask you the question that on bank of which river the Battle of Ten Kings took place. So that was river Parashuni, and then modern day that is known as called Ravi. Okay, and they may ask you the names also of the rivers also. Okay, which river was known as called Parasuni or something like that. So the battle was fought between the tribe of Bhartas, okay, led by the chief Sudas, okay, against a confederation of 10 tribes. The Bhartas, okay, lived around upper region of the river Saraswati, while the Purus they were in the western neighborhood. They lived in the western side, living along the lower regions of Saraswati. The other tribes dwelt northwest of the Bhartas in the region of the Punjab. Okay, guys, next we have the later Vedic period. Okay, now what was the duration? That is 1000 to 600 BCE. That period is called a later Vedic period. So, after the 12th century BCE, the Rig Veda had taken its final form. Okay, that is the Vedic society, which is associated with the Kuru Penakal region, but were not the only Indo-Aryan people in the northern India. They are transitioned from the semi-nomadic life to the settled agriculture. So they change from what now in this period, so semi-nomadic to the settled agriculture in the northwestern India. Now procession of the horses remained an important priority. What was their priority? The possession of the horses. Sorry, possession means to have it. Okay, so they like to keep the horses, right? Which animal they like to keep? That was horses. That was important animal during the later Vedic period. Uh, an important priority of the Vedic leaders and a remnant of the nomadic lifestyle, now resulting in the trade routes beyond the Hindu Kush to maintain its supply as the horses needed for the cavalry and sacrifices could not be bred in India. The gigantic plains had remained out of the bounds to the Vedic tribes because of the thick forest cover. After 1000 BC, the use of iron axes and the plows became widespread and the jungles could be cleared with ease. This enabled the Vedic Aryans to extend their settlement into the western area of Ganga Yamuna Daob. Okay, many of the old tribes form large political units even. Now let's see what is saying further that in this period, okay, the Varna system emerged. Means this was the time when the Varna system was started. Okay, emerged the state Kulke and Rothermund, which in this stage of Indian history were a hierarchical order of states, which reflect a division of labor among the various social classes. The Vedic period state were four, means they have divided their society into the four classes there. Okay, and what were there? They were the Brahmin priest and warrior nobility stood on the top. Okay, the Brahmins were Brahmins and the warriors were given the high priorities. Like I show you here, this is the Brahmins and the warriors. They were on the top. Okay, and free peasants and traders were the third. Okay, and slave and laborers and artisans, okay, was the another class. Many belonged to the indigenous people were the fourth. Okay, and this was the period where the agriculture, metal and commodity production as well as the trade greatly expand. Okay, so you need to remember that during the Vedic period your agriculture, metal, commodity production and trade was expanded. Okay, and the Vedic era text including the early Upanishads and sutars important to later Hindu culture were completed during this time. Upanishad was completed at this period only. Now further it said the Kuru kingdom. The Kuru kingdom was the earliest Vedic state. They may ask you which was the earliest Vedic state. So that is Kuru kingdom, which was formed by a super tribe which joined the several tribes in a new unit. To govern this state, the Vedic hymns were collected and transcribed, and the new rituals were developed, which formed the now orthodox Saratu Saratwa rituals. The two key figures in this process of the development of Kuru states were the king Parikshit and the successor Janamejya. Okay, transforming this realm into the dominant political and cultural power of the northern Iron Age India. Okay, further said the most well-known religious sacrifice that arose in this period, means which took place during this Vedic period, was your Ashwamedha. So, in which period the Ashwamedha horse sacrifice was started? It was started in your Vedic period. This sacrifice involved the setting a consecrated means sacred horses here. Okay, free. What they do, they make the horses free to roam to the kingdom for a year, almost for 1 year. That horse will roam, move around. The horse was followed by a chosen band of warriors. Okay, and that will be followed by particular warriors. The kingdoms and the chiefdoms in which the horse wandered had to pay homage or prepare to battle the king to whom the horse belonged. Okay. Now, supposingly the horse has been made free from this A particular A state is there. Okay, and it moves to the B state. If the horse come to this B state, so the B state king has to be ready to pay some homage, or they have to fight with A for the kingdom. This was the Ashwamedha horse sacrifice tradition, which was started in your Vedic period, one of the important event to be marked. Now let's see what other important changes took place here. This sacrifice put a considerable pressure on the interstate relations. Okay, and this what happened because of the Ashwamedha thing. The interstate relationship become more pressurized. Okay, the period saw also the beginning of the social stratification by the use of Varna, the division of the Vedic society, that is Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. Further, it says the Kuru kingdom declined after its defeat by non-Vedic slave tribe, and the political center of the Vedic culture shifted east into Panchala kingdom of the Ganges under the king Kesin Dalbhaya. Okay, approximately 900 to this much time period, that is 900 to 750 BCE. Later in the 8th or 7th century BC, the kingdom of Vidya, okay, emerged as a political center further to the east in what is today is your northern Bihar of India. Okay, so Vidya is also known as called your Bihar at the olden times, and the southeastern Nepal. Okay, reaching its prominence under the king Janaka. Now, guys, let's talk about the culture of the Vedic period. That how was the society and what was the culture over there. So, while Vedic society was relatively egalitarian, in the sense that a distinct hierarchy of the socio-economic classes or the caste was absent, the Vedic period saw the emergence of hierarchy of social classes. Okay, that took place in the Vedic period. The political hierarchy was determined by the rank where Rajan, okay, stood at the top and Dasi at the bottom. Okay, in this hierarchical society, Rajan or the king was at the top and Dasi or the slaves were at the bottom. The word Brahmins and Kshatriya occur in the various family books, okay, of Rig Veda, but they are not associated with the term Varna. The word Vaishya and Sudras were also absent in this time. Further, it said the institution of marriage, when we talk about the marriage at that time, how it was important, and the four types of marriages were during the Vedic period. How many types? Four types were there. Okay. Now, what this four type one is called your monogamy. Okay, mono means one. So this is the relationship in which the individual has the one only one partner, and another was polygyny. Polygyny is where a man has more than one wife. Okay, poly means here more. So the man used to have the more wives. And next is polyandry. Polyandry is the marriage of a woman of the two or more men at the same time. So in this, a woman can have more than one husband. Okay, are mentioned in the Rig Veda. Both women sages and the female gods were known as Vedic Aryans. Okay, so who were known as called the Vedic Aryans? This is the women sages and the female gods. Okay, women could choose their husband and could remarry if their husband dies or disappeared. A wife in the society enjoyed a respectable position. People consumed milk, milk products, grains, fruits, vegetables, meat eating is mentioned. However, the cows are labeled as your agya, aganya. Okay, means not to be killed. The Sanskrit word, it means that. The clothes of cotton, okay, what they were wearing, wool, animal skins were worn. Soma and Sura were the popular drinks at that time in the Vedic society. Of which the Soma was what we call it, that is a sanctified by religion. Okay, and the flute that and lute, that is Veena, harp, cymbals, drums were these were the major musical instrument of that time. Okay, and what kind of other source of entertainment was your dancing, the drums, the chariot racing, gamblings were the other popular pastimes they used to have. Let's have a look at the political organization of the Vedic period. So it says Aryans were organized into the tribes, okay, rather than kingdom. Okay, so what they were in the tribes and not in the kingdom. All right, kingdom was not there, but the tribes were there. The autonomy of the Rajan was restricted by the tribal councils called Sabha or Samiti. Okay, and the group was known as called Sabha or Samiti. The two bodies were in the part responsible for the governance of the tribe. The Rajan could not accede to the throne without their approval. Means when the Sabha or the Samiti allowed, then only the one can become Rajan. The distinction between the two bodies is not clear. Some tribes had no hereditary chiefs and were directly governed by the tribal council. Now let's see how the economy of the Vedic period worked. So economy in the life in the Vedic period was sustained by the combination of pastoralism. Pastoralism means is a way of keeping animals such as the cattle, sheep, etc. that involves moving them from the one place to another to find the water and food, etc. Okay, so the people were keeping rearing cattle that time. Agriculture. Okay, there are the references in the Rig Vedas to the labeling of the field. Okay, seed processing, labeling of feed, seed processing, storage of the grains in the large jars, war bounty. War bounty means whenever they used to fight with any of the neighboring kingdom and whatever they were winning in that battle, right? Precious jewels, clothes, whatever it was, right? So that is called war bounty. Was also a major source of wealth. Economic exchange were conducted by gift giving, particularly to kings, okay, and priest, okay, dana. If you are giving to the king, so that was known as called bali, you need to remember, and if you are giving to the priest, that is called dana. And barter, barter using the cattle as a unit of currency, okay, and what unit of currency they were using, that was cattle. All right. While gold is mentioned in the some hymns, there is no indication of the use of coins. Okay, metallurgy is not mentioned in Rig Vedas. Okay, you need to remember, nothing has been mentioned about it. But the word ayas, an instrument made from it, such as razors, bangles, axes, are mentioned in Rig Veda. Let's talk about the literature during your Vedic period, that how it was. So the reconstruction of the history of the Vedic India is based on the text's internal details, but can be correlated to the relevant archaeological detail. Linguistically, the Vedic text could be classified into the five chronicle state. Okay, how many? That is five. So we look at this one by one. The first one we have, that is called the Rig Veda text. So the Rig Veda is far the most archaic of the Vedic text. Okay, preserved at its retains many common Indo-Iranian elements, both in language and in content, that are not present in any other Vedic text. Its time span likely corresponds to the late Harappan culture and Gandhara grave culture and ochre colored pottery culture. In the series second we have, that is called mantra language text. So this period means Vedic period includes both the mantra and the prose languages of the Atharva Veda. Okay, the Rig Veda. Okay, the Sam Veda, Samhita containing the some 75 mantras. Okay, not in the Rig Veda. On the mantras of the Yajur Veda. Many of these texts are largely derived from the Rig Vedas but have undergone the certain changes both by linguistic changes and by the reinterpretations. In the field of literature, the another important thing here is Samhita prose text. These periods mark the beginning of the collection and the confidence of a Vedic canon. An important linguistic change is the complete loss of injunctive, the Brahmin part, okay, of the Black Yajurveda belongs to this period. Okay, archaeologically, the painted grey ware, okay, that is PGW culture from which was between your 1000 to 900 BC corresponds to the Kuru kingdom and the subsequent eastward shift of the political center from the Kurus to the Panchals on the Ganges. This all is described in your Samhita prose text. Okay, the next one you have the Brahmin prose text. The Brahmin proper for the four Vedas belong to this period as well as the Arya, Aranyakas, the oldest of the Upanishads. Okay. And our last one in the series is that is called a Sutra language text. Okay, this is the last stratum of Vedic Sanskrit leading up to the 500 BCE, comprising of a bulk of sutras were involved in this. Okay, Grha Sutras and some Upanishads were the part of it. Okay, okay, guys. So in this way, we have seen what were the major events, literature, religion of Vedic period. I hope all of you understood well. Okay, and my best wishes are ahead with you guys. Okay, thank you very much for watching.